factoring quadratic equations still. Today we're going to go ahead and actually solve those quadratic equations. Here's our first example. K squared plus 8k minus 84 equals 0. When it has an equation, it has an equal sign in it, they're wanting you to actually solve. They want you to figure out what values of k is going to make this equation equal 0. Well, the only way to solve a quadratic is to do what? Or at least at this point for us, factor. Do we have a greatest common factor? We do not. Is it in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c? Yes, so let's set up our box. K squared goes in the top left. Negative 84 is going to go in the bottom right. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 84 and the same two numbers that add to positive 8. What are those factors? I'll have a calculator and be trying these. When you come up, if you have them, let me know. Tell them out.
Could it be positive 14 and negative 6?
That's correct. Negative 6 and positive 14 are the correct factors to use. Now, as you guys are going through these, are you doing it in kind of an organized fashion where you can keep your factors in order? When I'm doing it in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I know that we have 1 and 84, well, not 18. We have 1 and 84. We have 2 and 42. We have, does 3 go in there? 3 and 28. See how I'm kind of going in order? 1, 2, 3, 4 goes in there. 4 and 21. 6 and 14. I'm just kind of going in order. I know 5 didn't go in, so I skipped it. I'm just kind of making an organized list of my factors. I'll help you come up with those. You kind of stay organized, that way you don't skip any of them. Anyway, we have negative 6 and 14, which are the correct factors. Now factor each row and column. In the first column, what's our GCF? Okay. How about the second column? 14. First row. Okay. Second row. Okay. So our factored form is k plus 14, k minus 6 equals 0. That's still part of our equation, isn't it? Equals 0. I'm not just factoring. What are they wanting me to do? Solve. Can you solve this?
Yeah.
Yes, we should be able to. We did this the other day. We're going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. The first factor is k plus 14. Can you solve that equation?
Minus 14.
Subtract 14. The second factor is k minus 6. Of course, we can solve that one by adding 6. So k is equal to 6. We have two answers, negative 14 and 6.
That answer is almost just like there are factors of there.
Yes, a lot of times, well, not always. Depends on what kind of form. If it's an ax squared or x squared, it just depends. Sometimes it will be that way. Laura?
When we're writing our answer, is it just the last two numbers we come up with?
Yes. These are what k are. These two values are what are going to make the equation equal 0. Negative 14 and 6. That's what I'm looking for. How about this one? 12x squared minus 14x plus 4 equals 0. Do we have a greatest common factor?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
2. We need to do that up front, just like we talked about a little bit ago, if you guys that were in here. Went over homework. Now, divide. 12x squared divided by 2 is negative 14x divided by 2.
Negative 7.
And 4 divided by 2
Plus 2.
equals 0. Now, still inside of parentheses, do I have a trinomial that I could possibly factor? Yes, I sure do. So set up your box. I'm looking here for factors of what? 6 times 2 is
12.
12. Factors of 12 that add to negative 7. What are they?
Negative 3 and negative 4.
Negative 3 and negative 4. Negative 3x and negative 4x. Now factor. First column,
Negative 3x.
not negative
Negative
3x.
2.
3x. I can't take a negative because the first term is not negative. In the second column, what's my greatest common factor?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. And this time I took a negative because my first term was negative in that column. Go to the first row. Greatest common factor here is
2x.
2x. Second row, negative 1. So we have our factors as 3x minus 2 and 2x minus 1 equals 0. Are we finished? Have we
No.
factored
No.
and solved? We haven't solved. So what are we going to do with each of these factors?
What should we put the 2 down?
Oh, I did forget 2. I apologize. We did factor the 2 at the beginning. We need to bring that 2 down. Okay. Now how many factors do I have? 3. So my first factor is 2. So I would say 2 equals 0. Does that make sense? Does 2 equal 0?
No.
No, it definitely doesn't equal 0. That's not going to be anything. I can't do anything with that. There's nothing I can do. Go to your next factor. 3x minus 2 equals 0. What would you do to solve this equation? And then divide by 3. X is 2/3. Is it okay to have a fraction as an answer?
Yes.
Absolutely. You may often have fractions. There's nothing wrong with that. Our third factor is 2x minus 1 equals 0. We can add 1 to both sides. And then divide by 2. X is equal to 1/2. How many answers do I have? What about this 2 equals 0? Isn't that one of my answers?
You can't put that 0.
There was no variable in this to solve for, was there? So it's not going to help me to find values of x that are going to make the equation 0. The only 2 values of x that make the equation 0 are right here, 2/3 and 1/2. Questions so far? This one looks a little bit different than you're used to seeing. X squared plus 6x equals 27.
Or if we just add plus 0.
Well, what do our
Minus
equations
27.
need to equal in order to factor, Summer? So what do they need to equal? 0. Remember when we do greatest common factor? I said before you did factor it has to equal 0, didn't I? Okay, same thing applies here. We need to get everything on the left side of the equation. Let's make it equal 0 by subtracting 27. Now, whatever term is over here on the right-hand side, when we subtract it, make sure you put it in descending order. Okay, 27 is our constant, which will go last, but please put it in order. Now, we can factor. Do we have a greatest common factor?
Nope.
I don't think so. So set up your box. Looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 27 and add to 6.
9 and negative 3.
Austin, you're good coming up with those, aren't you?
That's pretty easy.
So let's factor each row and column. In our first column, what is your greatest common factor?
X.
X. Second column,
Negative 3.
first row.
X.
Second row.
No.
So we have x minus 3, x plus 9 equals 0. How do we know that they want us to solve, other than I told you we're solving quadratics today? It equals 0, right. That's an equation. It's not an expression, not just a polynomial. They're wanting us to actually solve. So let's set each factor equal to 0. To solve that first equation, what would we do? Add 3. So x is equal to 3. For our second factor, x plus 9 equals 0. We could solve by subtracting 9. X is equal to negative 9. What have you noticed about the number of solutions each time? There's 2. And typically that's what you'll have in quadratics. Sometimes you'll have one answer, sometimes you'll have 2. There'll be other times where you won't have any answers, and we'll talk about that more in algebra 2. But usually you'll have 2 answers. Let's see what else I got going here. Okay. I'm going to stop here, so I want you guys to get a good jump on this. Hopefully get all your homework done until the weekend. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yep.
I have some problems for you to practice factoring trinomials. Remember, you're actually solving if it has an equal sign. The directions will tell you also to solve the quadratic equations. So there's a couple of things you're looking for, that equal sign and the directions to tell you the method. Your homework is on page 489. We're going to do 5 through 10 all and 20 to 28 evens.